Okay, so let's come back to this drawing board once again, and let's say I have this memory here. Okay, in this I have instance, this instance, and this is class variable. Let's say I use blue color here, two different colors. Now if you will see, instance variable can see class. Why? Because its instance is of a class, so it's very obvious they can. So this way it is allowed. So you can go this way, you can go this way, but static cannot access instance, meaning that if you, so just now you created two methods. In the method there is one method which is an instance method. That instance method can access both the static and non-static. So you say sys out of those two variables, plus in the next method, which is your static method, you will see that you can only access static. So if I go back here and this is display, here I can say sys out of name, and I can as well say sys out of instructor, right? But if I try to copy, if I try to copy and paste it here, for example, it will not work. It will say, what is the error? Can somebody read for me? I'm making I'm static, from static method or from class I'm calling the attribute of a instance variable. Okay, now why it should not be allowed? If you think logically, if there were two instances, which instance should it display the value of, right? It could be any instance, either this. So how does it know? So does it make sense? Yes, no. Static members cannot access non-static members. Yes, meaning class member or class method can access class variables and class methods, but it cannot access instance variables or instance methods, for the obvious reason that if it was allowed to go from blue to black, which black of value it should display for you, right? If I say sys out of name, whether it will be name of the first S1 or S2, how will it know, right? But if I am going from S1 to the class and S2 to the class, it is the common or same for both the instances. So do we understand? Okay, quickly please write this program. Okay, so next topic which we are going to look at is final variables in Java. So what is meant by final? Yes, something which if it is made final, we should not be able to modify the value for that, right? Yeah, so let's create a final example of final. So I will go here, okay. So I have this class which I am calling ETL. Okay, in this let's say I have a string string institute institute, okay, and I have string, or I'll say number of courses, int number of Okay, so if you are coming to ETL Hive to study, then do you think the name of institute is going to change? No, right? But what would change? The number of courses might change. Today it is offering so many, it might offer something else. So what I might want to do is, if there is something which does not change, I might want to make it final. Okay, so let me make it final here, and here when I am defining string final, here I'll also give a value and I'll say ETL Hive. Fine. Yes. Now let's say in the I create a method here. I'll say void set values, open bracket, close bracket. Inside this method I say number of courses equal to, let's say we offer 25 courses for now, right? Or let's say initially it was 25 and now I make it 30 here, equal to 30, right? What if I want to change the name of the institute? So let's see what it says, equal to something else, whatever name, AAA. So what can somebody read this for me? Because I cannot change the value of the final if it is assigned a value in the beginning. So final variable is a variable whose value cannot be modified once it has been assigned a value. Okay, then let me create a method which is called final. So let's say I will create another class. I'll call ETL HIVE EXTENDS extends ETL. Okay, now what happens in overriding? We had a void this SPLAY, yeah, and then I would come down here and copy this here. This becomes, which concept is this? Overriding or overloading? What is this? Where is overloading here? Yeah, so please make sure I am deliberately doing this. Don't change your answers. If you answer whatever, and you should stay with that. Just because I am coming back and asking you, please don't. This will happen when you go for an interview. Okay, so this is overriding. But if I make the method as final, can you read this for me? What it is saying? What is the error I get? Yes. So if a method is made final in a class, you cannot override that method, right? So final variable value cannot be modified, final method cannot be overridden, right? So this is not allowed. So I'll have to delete this. Fine. Now what if I make the class final? What is meant by final? Which is complete? Which is sorry? No, I'm asking what is meaning of word final? Something which is final. So if variable was final, I cannot change its value. If method was final, I cannot override it. I cannot change it. Overriding is about changing, right? So if a method is final, I cannot over. And if class is final, because inheritance means you add or change it. So a final class cannot be inherited, right? So let's make this class as final. So if I make this class as final, then I cannot inherit the class. So if somebody can read this for me? Yes, so is it clear? So are we clear on what is final? Okay, so that's about final. Just 1 minute. Yes, what is your question? No, here we have a new operator which creates an object, but there is no virtual, we don't have pointers in Java. So all the memory management is taken care of by Java itself. You don't allocate memory explicitly like you do in C# or in C or C++. Here we cannot do that. Okay. Any questions so far? No? So can I ask questions? Yes? Okay, then leave it. If you are so confident, then I will not ask. Okay. So some of you came at around 12, or 3 of you. Can we still continue, or we'll continue for 15-20 more minutes and then, okay? And then from tomorrow it will be same time for everybody. From 12 we will start. Till around 3 only we will target. 2.5 to 3 hours we will target. That's what we look at. Okay. Okay. So next is exception. What is meant by the word exception? What is meant by word exception? Yeah, some exceptional situation arises. So let's say you write a program and there is a problem in the program. An exception situation occurs. Let's say you perform an operation which you should not have done. Then an exception happens in your program, right? So that is called exception in program. Like for example, okay, let's take an example. So I will go to okay, so let's write a program here. I'll say int a equal to 10 and int b equal to 5, and then I'll say int c equal to a divided by b, and I say sys out of c. Okay, so and here I will display something else. I'll say sys out before before division. Okay, and then here I will say sys out AFTR division, right? So if I run this program, we all know what is the output, but still we'll run it and see it run as Java application, and before division, after division, and the value as 2 here, right? So let me put it here rather, so this looks better here, right? So I hope there is no doubt and no problem with this piece of code. Now let's say if I change the value of b to become 0, what will happen? Yes, some kind of problem will happen, because in maths division by 0 is not allowed. So line, this will execute, this will execute, this will execute. When this is executing, some problem happens, and after that nothing will execute, right? Yes, no? So let's try to run it. So it will run up till line number this, and we will see before division, but anything after this line number 10 will not be visible to us. So if I run it, we saw before division, but after that I did not see any value, isn't it? Now what happens in Java is that, and we will talk more about this when we look at threading. In Java, what happens when you run your program? So suppose this is your program, Java program. When you run it, what happens? As a part of running this program, who is responsible for running the program? JVM. Okay, so JVM launches this run. So first program to run in your all this what you are doing is JVM. JVM looks for your main in Java, and if it finds main, it will run this. So who is calling the main? And if there is a and once the program is over, where should the control go back? So if there is a problem happening in this program, the control will get transferred back to the JVM again. Or to put it in a different way, if there is a problem happening in the main, that problem will be thrown back or passed back to the JVM. Why? because it is the one who started the main program. Yes. Okay, now what do we do? How do we handle this situation? There must be a way. I mean, it should not happen that if some problem happened in my program, the program should terminate, right? There should be a remedy for us to still continue working on what we are doing. So there is a concept of try catch block in Java. Let's look at that. So this piece of code which I think is giving a problem, which is this line, right? So you can type try, try, control and space bar. I'll use try catch block, and the piece of code which is giving a problem to me, I'll copy it and I'll put it here. Okay, and then what will happen? I'll sys out of E here. What is E? Don't worry about it. Sys out of E here, and then let's run this program. So what will happen again? It will come after line number 12. Problem will happen. Now, if the problem happens at line number 12, line number 12 here, it will throw an exception. Exception is divided by 0, and once it is throwing an exception, it throws, when the JVM throws an exception, it is thrown to a catch block. Catch block will catch that exception and take some action, and then after the catch block, rest of the code will execute. In the previous case, after the exception, the program terminated, right? Yes. Here it will go in the line number 15. It will display what problem happened, and it will still to continue. It will continue to do the work, but it will not work on this line for obvious reason, because problem happened at 12, so 13 will never execute. Is that right? So let's run this program. So before division I saw, then this is line number 15, I am seeing this, and then after division also I am seeing. Why I am seeing this? Line number 20, for the reason that it had been handled by a catch block, and therefore after the catch, rest of the code is also executed. Yes? We have done arrays. Yes, no? You know arrays? Who knows arrays? Array, you know? Arrays. Array is a data structure where you have similar data types stored, right? Yes, from C maybe little bit you will remember. Yeah. So let's define an array. You know an array, right? So let's define an array. Here I will say int arr open bracket close bracket equal to new of int bracket. I'll put here. Let's say I don't put any value. For the time being I say that I have an array of size 5, right? This is what it means, isn't it? It means that I have an array of size 5, right? This statement means that I have an array of size 5. What is an array? Array is a structure to hold the data, and the structure can be accessed by index arr 0, arr 1, right? Yes, no? 0, yes. Yeah. Now what is the size? 5. So if I try to access an element, so it starts with 0. Okay, so let's say I assign value also here. Okay, this is a syntax to assign value to array. So it is 1, 2. So it means I have defined an array holding 2 elements, so the size will be 2. Okay, so if I sys out of 0, what will be the value? If I say sys out of arr 5, then what will be the value? Some exception, right? So let's generate that exception. So I will say sys out of arr of 5, for example, right? So it is trying to fetch a value for me which is outside the limit of size 2. So it will throw an error. Okay, I'll say run as Java exception. So what exception? It says array index out of bound exception, right? Therefore exception will be thrown and control will come to line number 20 and it will execute as it's supposed to execute, right? Any problem? Okay. Now we all know what is crossing. Okay, so you tell me why it has not taken. अगर प्रॉब्लम इधर आ गया है, if it has encountered problem at line number 15, it would never execute subsequent lines and control will transfer to which line? Catch, right? So since control has come to line number 20, therefore rest of it did not execute. Now what is crocin medicine? Anybody knows crocin? We all know what is crocin. Crocin is taken for fever, body ache and few other things. Okay, so crocin is like a medicine which fixes a lot of things, lot of problems. So exception is like a crocin which fixes all kinds of problem that happens in Java. Okay, so what we will do is we will wind up here. So there is a question for you for tomorrow and please go and read about this. How do we handle specific exception? This is a generic exception class. What if you want to deal with specific problems? What do you do? How do you deal with it? So please go and find out the answer to it. Plus I will give you some assignments maybe today a little late because I have a very busy day today. But go to Java T point, read about exception handling. Okay? Okay, thank you so much. If you have any question, let me know. Otherwise, that's all I have for today. We shall continue at 12 tomorrow.